And we are back at 7:35 a.m. here on KFYO Mornings with Dave King and Matt Martin. And on line one is Congressman Jodey Arrington. Good morning, Congressman.
Good morning, Dave. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning.
I am so glad you're here because I've been wanting to talk to you. We've been talking, as you might imagine, about all the goings on yesterday, the impeachment talk that went through Washington. I kind of digested all of it. And I came away thinking the Democrats scored some points yesterday, and I was just going to be interested to find out your thoughts.
Well, I'm interested to know what points you think they scored.
Well, I think that to those in the mushy middle, I think Nancy Pelosi came across with this crying jag almost that she didn't hate anyone and this was not political. Although I don't believe that, I'll bet you don't believe that.
Well, look at the testimony. The last phase of this circus was the supposed constitutional law experts. They were really partisan attack dogs. I mean, if you watch that, you just go, wow, this is what we're having to deal with now after the Schiff show. And I'd seen the numbers in polls, and the middle, or the independents, I could say the independents for certain. I don't know about the left of center Democrats, but the independents are falling off the bandwagon of impeaching the president. And I think it's a combination. I think it's the process that's broken. I don't think they think the president did something impeachable. They probably think it was inappropriate. But I think it's the combination of the partisan process and the fact that the Democrats have obsessed about it for a year and have done absolutely nothing for the American people. So that's my take in summary.
Now, Congressman, one of the things that I saw in the news prior to her doing the announcement yesterday, they were saying the day before she essentially went in and asked the Democrats if they were ready, and it sounded like to me they had a big "we're going to impeach Donald Trump" party where they took all the cameras and stuff away. I mean, it doesn't seem like people are really reporting it that way. But, I mean, are the Democrats do they seem excited about this? Are they happy about doing this?
Well, the leftist socialist Democrats who are actually controlling the agenda are happy about it, no doubt. But you have 50 Democrats in competitive seats. There's only about a 18 to 20 seat margin. Now it's probably a 19 seat margin between Republicans getting the House back. And 31 Democrats won in the midterms in Trump seats or Trump districts. So those folks are not happy because they're getting tremendous pressure back home to actually produce something, and they wanted bipartisan problem solving, and they wanted something other than just the constant harassment of the president. So the ones that matter for us getting the House back and the independents who matter for presidential elections, they are not throwing a party. They are tied up in knots.
So let me ask you, is there any chance at all, and I personally don't think so, but is there any chance at all that these people think more about their jobs as congressmen and their constituents than they do what Nancy Pelosi wants them to vote?
No, I think ultimately there will be a few that will peel off just because they care more about their constituents.
I mean, there's already been two that said they're still the two that voted against it originally still seem like they're not going to vote for it. So there's at least two Democrats right there.
Well, speaking of quid pro quo, I think you've got Pelosi making a deal with these Democrats to tee up USMCA for ratification. So I think it's you vote for the impeachment, I'll give you USMCA. So there's a little bit of negotiation going on. Don't think for a minute they're voting their conscience. They're voting for practical reasons to get USMCA. I think at least that's what I'm hearing.
So the USMCA, you bring that up. There were reports that Nancy Pelosi was trying, or at least they used her name. It's probably the Democrats are trying to remove protections from American tech companies to keep them from getting sued. What do you know? What protections are in place for them, and why the Democrats would want to take those away?
Well, the Democrats like to take the mantle of free speech, but in this case, they would be in danger of trampling it if they took these protections away. This is the law of the land in the United States. I think it's fair to debate the law, but these internet companies are a platform. And if every time somebody did something bad on the internet, you were going to open up the big tech companies or internet companies for litigation, I think it'd be a disaster. I mean, it's like, you're not able to sue car manufacturers because somebody gets drunk and runs over somebody. You got to hold them accountable. And I think the laws are reasonable, but I think it's also a good debate to have. This is just a red herring. This is just the latest in Pelosi trying to find something to show that there's a substantive reason that she's not moving forward on USMCA, but it's a joke.
Well, interesting. Well, of course, there's probably other things going on in Washington. Well, maybe not, other than impeachment.
Well, there's not. There really isn't. I mean, there are partisan pieces of legislation that get rammed through the House on a total partisan vote, and it's a messaging piece of paper. It's not going to solve anybody's problems because it's not bipartisan, and it's one after another, along with crazy socialist ideas like the government taking over our economy, the government taking over medicine, the government taking over elections. I mean, I could go on and on. The latest will be the government takeover of drug development and importing socialist European policies for the pharmaceutical industry. That we definitely need to bring prices down. We know how to do that, and we can do it in a bipartisan way without having price fixing and other socialist policies.
Yeah. Doesn't it have more to do with what would you say, patent issues more than it does the actual drugs themselves?
So I maintain that the patent protection is at the core in terms of the drug pricing problem, because if you give somebody a monopoly for too long, they won't just recoup their cost, and it is extremely expensive to do the R&D.
Right.
They will go beyond that. So I agree with you. That's at the heart of it. And I could explain more, but I know we're going to be running out of time. If you want to ask me more details on that, I can give it to you.
Let's get on the other side of this break, Congressman, if you'll hang on, and then we'll come back with more Congressman Jodey Arrington right after this. And we're back here on KFYO Mornings with Dave King and Matt Martin, and on line one is Congressman Jodey Arrington. Let's see, what were we talking about?
Well, we were actually talking about drug prices. Congressman, one of the questions as far as the drug prices, we were talking about it being a patenting issue, is one of the big ones they keep bringing up is inhalers. I know that my wife used to have an inhaler, and then the liberals actually made a rule against the type of gas that was in the inhalers. They've made a new system, and were able to repatent it and charge a whole bunch more for inhalers again.
Well, the Democrats, just like through Obamacare and their, quote, Affordable Care Act, believe that taxing, regulating, and mandating, basically controlling more of the economy, in this case, the pharmaceutical products, through government, is the answer. And we have the opposite effect. Premiums and deductibles doubled under Obamacare. And the same will happen here, and worse, because about 50% of the drugs that are available to Americans are available to other countries and other people around the world, because we have the most innovative platform for discovery when it comes to biologics, or drugs, therapies of all kinds. So there are ways to bring the prices down to encourage more competition. I have actually passed a bipartisan bill out of the House, working with Democrats, to bring more transparency in the drug negotiating process, which will also bring the prices down. So there's a way to do it. It's through market forces and market policies-based policies. It's not more government control, for heaven's sakes.
Yeah, and I think that's something that the liberals, they just can't get past. They think that the government should control everything.
Well, they do. And here's the thing. Quality suffers. I mean, we will lose life-saving drugs. Access suffers. Fewer people will have access to the drugs because the prices will go up because they'll have to charge more. And anyway, it always ends poorly, just like free health care for all sounds good, but socialized medicine would be a disaster for the healthcare system in this country, and we'd be waiting in long lines. And by the way, our taxes would be doubled, and that's just unsustainable and unthinkable.
So, Congressman, I know that it was an important message to make. Donald Trump made an important message about Hong Kong. Do you think that essentially all they did was slap China on the wrist about how they were treating Hong Kong, but do you think that hurt the trade negotiations with China?
No, I don't think so. I think China has to say what they say, like, hey, don't get in our business. And I think the American people and our leader has to stand on the principles of basic human rights and freedoms. I signed that legislation or voted for it. The president signed it. And, we've got to we're more than just the economic and military leaders of the world. We have a moral leadership as the not just the most prosperous and strongest country, but the freest country. So I'm glad the president did it. I mean, I'm sure it didn't help the relationship, but I don't think it hurt our negotiations on the tariffs.
Well, Congressman, one other thing. Do we have any more agricultural legislation in the pipeline right now?
Well, the big one is going to be USMCA, and then getting phase one with China.
That USMCA, that would be a big boom for Texas, wouldn't it?
Well, it's huge. 1 million jobs are supported by the trade relationship with NAFTA, with Canada and Mexico, rather. And we have over 20,000 jobs in my district that are related to that business relationship with those countries. It would bring 170,000 jobs to this country, $70 billion to the economy in terms of additional growth on top of the growth because of tax and regulatory reform. So that's a big one. And the China purchase agreement would be huge. We're talking about possibly twice as much product that they would purchase, ag product, than they have in the past. So there's some good things on the horizon potentially. And then there are other things we can talk about on the labor side in future discussions.
What about has it hurt us? Has it hurt the West Texas farmer, this trade war, or if we call it that, with China?
Yeah, it has. No question it's been painful, the fallout from the tariff battle with China. But the president has taken great care of our farmers and ranchers by providing this temporary trade assistance and trade relief. And it's been meaningful. I've talked to the producers, and they appreciate it. They stand with the president, and I think it has given them just enough relief to get them down the road so that we can get to this phase one purchase agreement. That will alleviate it, I think, altogether.
Okay, Congressman, we're going to have to take a quick break, and then we'll come right back to you.
And we'll be back and close out with Congressman Arrington right after this.